Welcome everyone. Welcome in the third session of feasibility studies preliminary design and how we can apply the EIA to any type of a, engineering or non-engineering projects. So today in the lecture we will mainly talk about TELOS. TELOS is one important factor which we consider in the feasibility study. Means technology and system feasibility, economic feasibility. T actually stand for technology, E stand for economy, L stand for legal consideration, while O stand for the operational and S for the schedule or schedule. We will also talk about how we can describe any type of a feasibility project, or basically we can also explain that in another phrase that how to write a technical feasibility report. And also we will discuss what is important of feasibility studies. And also in the last, before assigning the task, I will also tell you how to write the or how to framework your feasibility report as well. Coming to the five important and very common factors which we will discuss today in details, which are playing a very important role in any type of a feasibility report. Before to start work on that, you actually have idea about those five important factors. The very first one is technology and system. Okay, so the question is why it is important and in which context the same feasibility type is important. The assessment is based on the any type of outline design for a system, or we also going to evaluate or analyze requirements in terms of input, what will be the input and how we can process the same input. Means, for example, if we plan something on the paper, so we will see it that how much technically sound any type of a firm have, such as we will consider as an outline, and also we will consider the design of a system requirement in terms of the input and how we can process it, and what will be output means the outcome, and then how we can proceed the same parameters. So this the same can be quantified in terms of volume of data, trends, and the frequency through which we can update system as well. Furthermore, in order to estimate whether the technology and system feasibility will perform adequately or not, that means that the feasibility is the study which is completely based on the very important parameters which we called outline. So outline is basically a kind of a background or a or the field for this whole very important type. Okay? Second type is economic feasibility. Whenever we say economy, there will be a term such as cost benefit analysis. Do you know what is cost benefit analysis? Anyone there? Cost benefit is actually the process of comparing the project or estimated cost and benefits, means opportunity related to a project to determine whether it measures sense to invest or not. Simple thing is we going to see if the project is worth to invest or not. In the same, we can decide it on the basis of that how much effectiveness in the system is if we talk about economic feasibility. Okay, so economic feasibility is very important for for the investor, for the designer, for the client, and for the consultant as well. Okay, through economic feasibility, the procedure is actually adopted to determine the benefits and saving, which is compared to a saving compared with the cost. For example, we determine the cost, the initial cost of the launching or execution of the project, and then we see that how much benefits we can hold in the same project. And then the third part is if it's benefit outweigh cost, then the decision is made on what to design and implement the system through which we can accurately evaluate or execute the cost versus benefit before taking action. That means that before to consider any type of a cost, we actually try to compare that how much cost you need to invest, and then how much benefits you can get from the same project. The very last part is about time based. When we talk about time based, keep in mind for any type of a project, if you are a builder, if you are an investor, if you are a client, if you are a project designer or consultant or any supervisory body, if you exceed your time frame, then the percentage, the marginal profit percentage will be reduced. So that means if you cannot complete the same project within due time, there may be you face a consequences. So this is very important that in terms of economic feasibility, we should consider the time-based consideration as well. The next part is about legal and operational feasibility. When we say something legals, in that specific term, we would like to determine whether the proposed system is consist of conflicts or any legal conflicts, such as maybe some data is missing. Maybe you heard that whenever the state execute a project in most of the underdeveloping countries, because most of the time they build it on the people property. So in most of the area they initially apply section 4 only to only to control or kind of get the authority or the holding of the same land or the ownership of the same land. So you have to see that if we consider the same project in terms of legal feasibility, how much it is technically sound. And then the last part is about operational feasibility, which tell us that how will a proposed system involve the problem means. The solution you provide is how much it is the exact solution to the problem. And then we also take advantages of the opportunities through which we can identify the scope, the future perspective, what are the requirements at the site, and what are the phases through which we can develop a system. So this is called the operational feasibility. The last part is about schedule feasibility. Most of the project fail if we did not take too long to complete it before it is used. Typically, this means estimating how long the system will take to develop, and it can be completed in a given time period using some methods like payback period. Okay, so means that we want to estimate or want to get the estimation of any type of a project, and we would like to complete the same within given time. So if you fulfill the schedule feasibility, which is basically a measure that how reasonable the project timetable is, giving our technical expertise in the project deadline, which should be reasonable. That means if I conflict the same, if I refer the same feasibility study to Peshawar BRT, as the initially Chief Minister ex Parvez Khattak mentioned, that we can complete BRT within 6 months, but he ignored all those issues. That's why he was a blunt, he was a ignorant, he was not a technically sound person. So you cannot complete the 4 or 5 year project within 3 to 4 or 6 months. For political scoring, it is acceptable, but if we talk in reality, this is not acceptable. So also you have to mention what will be the deadline reason, what will be the issues, and what will be the constraint. And then usually there is a penalty as well, which vary from project to project from 5% to 20%. Some projects are initiated with a specific deadline. You need to determine whether the same deadline is mandatory or it is desirable. Any questions so far? Any questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, normally when we do a feasibility or any project, there are some constraints like, for example, we did not consider a particular thing like taking a permission of a specific area which is a government property, and you have to ask permission, and before in preliminary survey you didn't know that. Similarly, there are some cost overheads, sometime they ask for money, yeah, something commission, which we do not put it in our total estimated cost. So how we will see this feasibility is successful or this is good or bad?
Okay, that's why we actually started from the types of feasibility, such as economic, technical feasibility, and so forth. And then we end up with the objective, and then we end up with the components. So in the components, you should consider all the hidden legal, cultural, schedule, resource feasibility, even marketing feasibility, even technical, even financial, even organizational. You should consider all of them. That means this is not, I'm telling you that how we should do it. This is, you should understand that we should consider all those factors. If, for example, if you are the head of any administration, so if there is a 5 or 10 consultant who would like to participate in your specific project and they would like to provide you the services to write a feasibility for any of your project, you should consider, of course, you can consider all of them, but if you want to evaluate their marking, their ranking, so those are the parameters. And as a designer, as a head, you should consider all those parameters while before assigning the task to anyone. But the rest, I'm totally agreeing with you. Thank you. Okay, so there are some few other feasibility factors as well, such as market and real estate feasibility, resource feasibility, and cultural feasibility. Market and real estate feasibility. Okay, so in that specific type of a feasibility, we usually involve such as geographic location, real estate development project, and which also involve the land parcel as well, development, market studies, and also to determine the best location, as you already mentioned, question about issues which could have less issues as compared to why we usually provide more than one or two or three alternative while when we conclude our feasibility. The reason is to calculate and count all those issues. Okay? So this is basically the reason. Okay, so if we talk about specifically about market and real estate, so you should consider the inflation, deflation, and what will be the type of a project will be used, like it's a dedicated one, it's a mixed use project, and you should consider the market feasibility as well. The second type is resource feasibility. Resource feasibility means which involves questions such as how much time is allowed to build the new system, where or when or whether it can be built on the in terms of the normal businesses operation, or it may need dedicated or specific type of operation in organizational feasibility or maybe resources, and what type of an amount of resources we actually require. And the last part is about cultural feasibility. In this stage of the project, all the alternatives are evaluated through impact on the local and general culture. For example, environmental factor need to be considered, and these factors are to be well known as well. So our third part of this subject is the EIA application, which is actually somehow related to environmental feasibility. Okay. Now we are moving to the very last part, which we call how to describe the feasibility for any type of a specific project, or how to write even feasibility, or what are the things to do and don'ts while writing technical feasible report. Okay. The very first one is about identification and exploration of business scenarios. So you need to see, for example, if you are going to launch your own private project, so you should consider market and businesses demand as well, that how much you can cap the market as well. So the very first one is to identify the alternative scenario for a business model. Means what type of project, how it will be organized, and how it will generate profit as well. So these may come from the idea of assessment or through market assessment, which maybe you already had. Okay. The second type is about how we can assess our idea and market as well. Okay. The third one is if there is any type of a scenario which does not make sense, so you need to eliminate them. The fourth one is about that we should consider such type of scenarios and alternative which could have potential. Okay, so you don't need to consider so many alternative. Okay, so uh, every alternative should based on potential, should based on cost benefit analysis, should based on the internal rate of return, should based on that how it could stimulate or how it would bring the people attention as well. And then the fifth type is about how we can describe type and quality of the product as well. And then the last one about you should consider your journal model, how to do business, how to make money, how to profit your stakeholder, how to provide maximum benefits to your investor, and so on.
So
The
these
next
days,
type,
mostly they are
yeah,
doing for political scoring. Like they change the routes of the project, and like for example, roads, especially or motorway or interchanges. They do it just
that's
for
very true.
political purposes.
That's very true. As actually the bad fate of the bad luck of the country and people is that we never build a project for the people. We are trying to build the people to use our own infrastructure or like project. So if we reflect the same situation or the same model to the any of the developed European countries, such as like Germany or like France or like Italy or like Spain, where the people participation in making a huge decision is very important, and the state cannot even make or build anything without the people approval because the whole country is function on the people percentage of the taxes which they usually pay. So of course there is a lot of constraint and a lot of issues. Okay. So the next part is about that how we can outline, how we can provide the scope and constraint to our economic and social impact, which could affect our local communities. Okay, so you should consider them as well. Minorities, other religion, etc. Okay, so you should also describe and apply the EIA of any project according to your surrounding area to save the environment and also to plan and build the sustainable projects. So if we would like to describe any type of a project, such as the project for BRT, the project for a long rail track or for the automatic guided tracks, so you should describe its size, its scope of the project, and its market segment as well. So like which specific indicators are like sectors you can uh, target. The second part is you should estimate the future direction as well of the project. It means that you should not consider such type of a alternative which could function only for a specific class of a people, for a specific area, for a specific for the for a specific time period. Every project you should describe its application benefits and outcome should be for a very longer period of time. Describe the nature of the project, like means which is its nature, such as the same project will need a dedicated way, mixed way, or a semi-mixed way. Okay, so for example, if we consider the example of a BRT, so BRT most of the time it actually have a dedicated way. Dedicated means when the infrastructure is cannot be used by someone else. When we call semi-mixed means or like partially mixed when it's only shear, it plays only at the intersection. And then last part is a completely mixed. Best example is Peshawar Hyderabad, from where the BRT operate from the local roads. And also the last part is that you should identify the life cycle as well. You should also consider the how much competitive your project is. You should consider for a larger period of time, for a longer period of time. for a which could also directly benefit your competitors, which could also target your competitors, which could also directly benefit your own investor, your own user, etc. And also you should analyze what could be the possible barriers or the hidden cost or the hidden potential you actually need to resolve such type of issues, as it was earlier raised by you as well, that we have almost such type of a heads which we ignore. But in feasibility study, you should consider, and your feasibility study should be not for a not focus on a very limited area. It should be wide. The next part is about market potential. We should, of course, consider something that the things which you want to sell. I would give you a very simple example. For example, if someone would like to open the purification plant. So already we have a lot of brands in our market such as Nestle, Ecofina, Springlay, Wa, etc., etc. So the simple question every investor need to ask: why the people will use your facility? So you have to come up in a monopoly, means you should target number one price and the second is quality. So you should provide the maximum quality with a reasonable amount. So you should offer something that someone else cannot offer. So this is the market potential strategy. And then the last one, we have a technical feasibility. In a technical feasibility, we actually see that what the exact facility is actually needed in terms of a size, type of a production, equipment, need, stock, kind of a supply chain, resources, money, potential, who will invest there, how much money cash flow you have, how much kind of a capital investment you already had, and how much you are dependent on someone else. So these are the technical feasibility parameters as well. Okay. So the next part is about that how we can consider the availability and suitability of the site. For example, you would like to build a road or like railway or like airport. So you should consider the facility such as a raw material, its capacity, its production, etc. How much transportation cost or facility or kind of strength you have, how much labor you can provide for a if it's a mega project which maybe need 20,000 people at the same time, how you can provide the electricity, natural gas, water, etc., etc. How you can investigate the potential of emission issues which you could have, and how you can analyze the EIA. Of course, you should consider legal regulatory requirement as well, and also you should explore the economic to investigate in terms of the potential to access and attract qualified management personnel as well. So the first one is how we can estimate the total capital requirement. It is very easy. You should consider the capital which could be need of the project, and you can also investigate the same one. And these needs should meet the capital requirement for the any type of facility, which could in terms to provide equipment and and uh, and also provide the capital funds as well in like full amount, in like full capacity. So the total capital requirement means it is basically reflecting towards that the construction delays could be possible. We could have the malfunctioning technology as well. We could also have the market access delays if you ignore the capital total requirement. The very important point we have to estimate the equity and how much credit you actually needed. So the definition of equity. Do you know what is equity? Equity is actually
Yes, sir.
the measure.
Yes, sir.
Yes, tell me.
Equity is actually shares of the project. For example, if there are more than one shareholder, so they are divided in the specific percentage, equally divided, or how many partners they are equally divided.
Very good. But if we talk about equity, so that means that it is a measure of a total assets when we get out or like minus the total liabilities. So the sum which we have is called equity. Okay. So in like simple terms, for example, you should consider the how much investment or assets you have and how much current needs you have. Okay. So that will be very easy to understand the credit needed to develop a project and how much you can offer to your shareholder in terms of equity in future. For example, if you own, for example, if you bought a house somewhere, okay, and you own to the developer around 15 million, but after some time or after inflation deflation or after any reason, the current value of a home is 20 million. So in such type of situation, you have a 5 million of equity. So now the question is, what is the difference between profit and equity? Can we call equity is the second name for a profit? No, because equity is actually when we minus the total liabilities in the assets, while the profit is the regular percentage of profit which come from the income. Okay. The next one you should consider that how much budget cost and how much returns it's expected. Budget cost means
Sir,
you should, yeah.
sir, if there is no inflation or deflation, for example, if we are selling the house on the same 2 million, and does the profit includes in the equity part or it's a separate portion?
Look, if there is no inflation or deflation, and you own like you bought the same house on 15 million, and now you are going to sell it to the 20 million. So of course, this is the your total assets were 15. When you take out the total liabilities, which could be maybe 50,000 or like 50, 100,000, so you have the 5 million of equity. So this is not uh, is for my understanding, I think this is not profit. Profit is something which is referred to the investment percentage which could come from the income, okay, of the yearly income. The next term is about, okay, clear? Next term is about budget expected cost versus how much return we can predict. Okay, so the important thing is that you should provide such type of alternative which you should provide such type of alternative which give you the different variation of the returns. Okay, so for example, if you invest in alternative one, the equity could be that much. If you invest in alternative two, business equity could be that much. If you invest in alternative three, means that you should provide different alternative option to your investor. So what we have learned from this whole study. So we have learned that we can identify and describe alternative on the business scenarios and different model on the market potential and how much we can compare the same issues, that how much is it is a real solution to any type of a problem as well. And also you should consider the outline criteria through which you can consider different type of a alternative. Okay. So it's very important. Okay, market potential, market business scenario, market models, and also you should consider your investor equity as well. So why it is important always to have a feasibility before starting of any project. So the information you gather and present in your feasibility study will always help you to do all the things you need to make the business work, because everyone want to invest for the profit. Okay, this is only the state which think about how they can subsidize different items, prices, price hike, etc. Because the people actually pay, the rich people, the elite class pay to the state in terms of the facilitation, in terms of the social security. You should also identify the logistical and other business related problems and solutions. Okay, if there is any administrative approval you actually needed, so you should consider all of them. You should also consider, for example, if the bank or investor who is going to sponsor your project, what is their current market value, what is their current market potential, etc. Okay, so you should have a solid foundation for developing your business plan. If I tell you the feasibility study is somehow related to business plan, or in other terms, we can call feasibility study is another shape or another phase of a business plan. This could be your feasibility study framework, but the more ingredient you can put there, the more conclusive it will be. So you should starting from your from like kind of details, your business idea, what are the what could be critical factors, what is the market analysis, what are the resource requirement, and how financially viable any type